Gaz Williams there on the Super Looper.
Yes.
We've got a variety of things set up here. You're playing piccolo bass.
Piccolo bass.
And we've got the iPad, we've got a foot controller. So this can only mean one thing. It's Sonic Touch, episode 35, the show dedicated to making music on touch devices. I'm Nick Batt, editor of SonicState.com.
And I'm Gaz Williams, a bass player and a producer.
So what we're looking at here is what basically Gaz used to create that whole setup. We've got the Focusrite iTrack dock. We've got Loopy on the iPad, which is Loopy HD, and we've also got the Keith McMillen Instruments Softstep 2.
Yeah, because this has been a bit of a riddle for many people about using an iPad and maybe using it in this kind of situation. Loopy as an app has been out for numerous years now and is clearly heads and shoulders above any other looper out there, including hardware loopers, really. But has been scuppered somewhat by being able to integrate it with all the necessary hardware. So what's quite nice now, the Focusrite iTrack dock, since this has come out, this is almost like the perfect match for Loopy, because not only does it act as an audio dock, as we've seen before, but it actually acts as a USB host as well.
Right, which is the Keith McMillen Softstep 2 was plugged into that.
That's right.
And that was controlling kind of loop selection, loop length,
yes,
recording, that
that's
sort of
right.
stuff.
Yeah, because Loopy's got quite good MIDI implementation. This seems to grow as well with every update. They seem to just keep increasing the MIDI
Michael
functionality.
Tyson, the developer, is a very smart guy. I mean, he's one of the big brains behind Audio Bus as well, isn't he?
That's right, yeah. So, you know, Loopy is a beautiful design. You know, it's very, very intuitive, and it's great to operate with your fingers. But when you combine it with the foot controller as well, it's a very formidable package. In fact, I think in many ways, it probably is the most functional looper out there, including all the kind of really dedicated
And you've tried some
ones.
of the hardware ones as well.
I've tried many of them, yes. And this, I think for many reasons, this has kind of got some really great advantages, chiefly among them being able to have 12 separate loops. Now, what I was doing in the little example at the beginning there was I was advancing the loop every time I was doing a new layer. But I didn't have to do that. You can keep on, like, as with any
sound
loop,
on sound type.
sound on sound, each loop infinitely. But one of the great things about this is when I save a session, you know, if I come into my sessions and I can
save that.
Yeah, let's save this session and we'll call it. It always comes up with the date first. So say we'll just call that Sonic Touch Demo. Is a really fancy name for it. That session includes all of those files as individual WAV files.
Right, so we can incorporate that with the computer if we wanted to later on in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, you know, one of the other things which is great with Audio Bus 2 is we could actually have multiple audio streams. So we can route out each of those loops out through Audio Bus and into individual effects.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, so the masses of possibilities. Now, I could have incorporated some of that in the performance, but my head would have kind of started to explode.
Yes,
yeah.
That's right. Well, let's rewind a little bit. And one of the things that we're looking at today is the Focusrite iTrack dock.
Yep.
So this is it, basically. This came as part of the bundle, which is the studio pack, which has got a pair of headphones, a lead, and a microphone, plus the dock itself. So what can you tell us about the iTrack dock?
Well, I think it's a very, very nice piece of kit in terms of it being, you know, specifically designed for the iPad. Now, this is for the iPad Lightning.
Right, it's not 30-pin at all.
No. I guess you could put an adapter on it, but I think, you know.
Spoil the aesthetic.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've seen this with an iPad mini in here, which creates the perfect rectangle.
I think it would I think it's perfect for an iPad Mini, you know, because it fits perfectly.
How does it accommodate both of those things? Let's have a look.
Okay, so I'm going to pop it out of the dock now, and we can see here, well, for a start, this little thing here, this is like a spacer, so that, you know, if you were using the older generation, yeah, if you were using the older generation, then you would.
Because this is an iPad Air, so
that's right, it's a bit thinner.
And this is the Lightning connector here.
Yeah. Now, this is one thing I'm not a big fan of. On this red thing, you probably won't be able to see it here, it does have little marks for where to slide this thing, but you can see you can move this
between iPad Air and iPad dock.
Yes.
And iPad
and the other
Mini.
Yeah, I guess, but it doesn't have any notches there, it just slides, so you have to sort of manually put it there, and then when you go to slide this in, you know, look, it's
sometimes it requires a little bit of tweaking.
So what I tend to do is push up the top, put it on there, and then just slide it down.
Right, okay.
But those little connectors, can you hear?
Oh yeah, it's probably just iterating there.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at connectors and an I/O and stuff as well.
Okay, well I'll slide this back out for a minute, and we'll see that the one of the things is there's actually a very decent complement of sockets around the back here, because we've got two mic channels with a global phantom power switch. There's like a high impedance instruments.
Plug your guitar straight in.
Yeah, and there's actually stereo line inputs as well, which is great. So plenty of things. And I think the order of priority is, I think the instrument takes priority, followed by the line, followed by the mic. Right. So
you can't mix them all together.
No. And then you've got monitor outputs, and then here is the USB hub, and then power switch.
It has to be powered, presumably.
It has to be powered, yeah. So it's, well, certainly to supply the phantom power. I think actually without the power, I don't think it will through the audio. So, so you could see that as a limitation if you're really into uber mobile music making, but it's very light. But yet, when it sits,
it seems firm.
It seems firm, and it's this lovely large monitor. You know, so it's like got a monitor controller in. So if you had a pair of active monitors plugged in, then you've got this nice big monitor control here with a separate headphone volume.
And there's a direct monitor button here rather than a blend like you get on some of the other ones.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a limit, but I mean, at least with a direct monitor, it means that whatever you've got coming in just essentially goes straight to the output. So without incurring any of the latency of the round trip.
And we've got the same as we have on the Scarlett. These light up, don't they? The outer rings between for the gains.
Yeah. We could demonstrate that actually, because that is actually one of the nice features of this unit. So we'll pop that in there. Okay, and then so I'll grab my instrument, and let's just okay. So this is a stereo input coming in at the moment.
Okay.
But you can see it lights up green to indicate signal. But like if we just max those out now.
Right. So it's the same as the Scarlett.
Yeah, and it goes kind of like orangey when you're kind of approaching the top there. So yeah, with a simple but elegant solution, I think, to that.
What do they sound like?
Good.
The mic preamps.
Yeah, good. We've tested them with numerous mics. We did that earlier. We were trying it through with ribbon mics and dynamic mics and condenser mics, and it seemed to handle everything reasonably well. Ribbon not so good, but ribbons are a bit fussy with the preamp that you use. But the mic that comes, well, you can buy this singly, or you can buy it in the pack, as you mentioned earlier. In the pack, it comes with a condenser mic, and that seems a pretty good match for the preamps. But also the headphones that come in that pack are a perfect match. They sound really good. I think yeah. There we are.
There we go. These are Focusrite own brand.
Nice.
I know that Focusrite distribute KRK. I don't know if there's any KRK-ness to these, but
don't know. They look a bit like the old AKG K71s, are they? But sort of nice studio. You know, they completely enclose your ears, so they're very good for tracking. You know, they are. You know, they're your kind of classic studio. So
tracking. I mean, you could kind of get started and be making music, whether you're using iTrack, dock, or whatever. Does it come with any apps for recording?
There's the Focusrite tape app, which is just a very simple but quite cool looking 2-track recorder.
Right.
With very, got metronome. There's a few editing.
But just basic.
Very basic. But that's a free download, so anyone can download that if they want just just kind of, say, drop it into record, get a nice little animation of the reels. But, that's how that works. And you can, and then you can export it out in various ways. But, you're not going to be able to do a lot of fancy stuff on that. But
no, it's primarily to just sort of that and your iPad and a pair of headphones and the mic, whatever the app of your choice, and you could be sort of getting ready to...
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you could imagine you've got a guitar going into there, you've got the microphone plugged in, and you want to just do a live performance, then an app like that is very direct, very straightforward. So, I can understand the appeal of that, and it's very, very easy to operate.
Okay, a few more things. Bit depth and sample rate?
Yeah, it goes up to 96K 24-bit.
Okay.
And I've tested it. Sounds really nice, which is, glitch-free.
Well, that's good. Although we did run into a problem when there was a previous app in there that was holding it at a different sample rate and bit depth. It gets a bit confused with clocking.
Yes, so beware. There is an inter-app audio. If you use inter-app audio, there is a potential pitfall there. So watch out for that. Worth mentioning that because it is plugged into the mains, it will keep the iPad.
Oh, it charges and charges runs the iPad as well.
Powered up, which is nice. So that is an advantage of it being plugged into the mains.
So you've been living with it for a little while. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think at the price point, which is
it's 169 for the dock itself.
Yeah.
249. This is UK pounds. If you're going to go for the studio pack, which gives you the headphones, the mic, and a little red cable, Focusrite red cable.
Everything you need except the mic stand.
Yeah, which you couldn't get in the box, I guess, unless it was a really tiny one.
But just competition to that. I've got this Allen & Heath desk, which has got class-compliant USB MIDI in for roughly the same price and gives you many, many more channels. Hasn't got the same nice form factor.
And doesn't do 24-bit 96
That is also true. Good point. So, what a neat package. Definite thumbs up, I think. Really good.
Okay, great. Well, there was also another part to this whole jigsaw of pieces that went together, and that's the Keith McMillen Softstep 2, which we're looking at here. This is the new Softstep 2, because obviously the Softstep was different, and there's a few things that we should look at. If I hold it up here, I don't know if we can see. You can see for starters, the actual physical shape is different because the front row are lower, which means it's easier to press these without pressing those as well.
That's right.
Nice.
And another thing, the original Softstep didn't have these kind of cruciform, as they call them, cross-shaped pedals, because one of the things about this is that you've
got X and Y pressure,
and it makes a bit more sense with them looking more like kind of like a cursor rather than square. You could do it before on Softstep 1, but as I say, I think that's a nice addition.
Absolutely. A couple of other things: brighter LEDs.
Yeah.
Faster processor, more RAM, which means more storage. So you've got all those things to look forward to if you were going to be using this. You program the whole thing up using an application which only runs on Mac and PC, and there are two flavours, which has been totally rewritten. In fact, the good news is those apps are much less sort of CPU hungry and memory hungry. The bad news is there isn't an iOS version, which seems a bit kind of crazy, really. That would be awesome if you just could program it from the iPad rather than just from the computer.
Absolutely. I think, come on, KMI, we want that. It would be really nice. But as it goes, the editor's fairly straightforward. But
you could do some pretty powerful stuff. So you can assign note, controller, sysx, XY. There's pressure. There's a lot of ways in which you can set this up. I mean, I personally find it a little bit weird using something like that, trying to control something with your foot across X and Y in terms of sensitivity. Another thing that we should mention, the back of the unit is beautiful carbon fibre, and there's this sort of rubber edge to it, but I don't know if it's showing up. There's all these patches here. Well, what we found we had to do on the carpet was, when Gaz was performing, was stick bits of gaffer tape to make sure it didn't move around, because while it's okay on this surface, on the carpet it was sort of travelling a bit.
It's a slippy chap, yeah, definitely. So, taping it down is a must, actually. And I think actually on a stage I would still want it taped down.
Well, I think that would make sense. You put it on a board or a pedal board or something.
Yeah.
Coming back to the inputs of the connection around the back, there are also, as well as a USB connectivity, which goes straight to the host. There's also this little chap here, which actually what that does is give you an additional foot pedal, or pair of foot pedals, basically.
Well, an expression pedal.
Expression pedal,
Yeah, an
sorry.
expression pedal, sort of pretty much most of the standard ones, like a Roland EV5 or something, could go in there.
So an additional controller
Yeah,
there.
so that's just an adapter for the...
Right, and there's also micro USB, which if you fancy splashing out a bit more, there's the KMI MIDI expander, which is this chap here, which is kind of rather rudimentary sort of pressed aluminium device. But what this does is give you MIDI in and out expansion to the Softstep, so it adds ports, and you drive it from that little port there, and that goes in there, and that will power this unit, assuming the Softstep is already getting a USB.
USB, yeah.
If not, you can put the USB in here, come out of here, and then go into the Softstep, and the power will go through it.
Yeah, so and that would enable you to use the Softstep with just regular non-computer gear, MIDI gear.
Absolutely, because when this has a memory in it that remembers what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, yeah.
We got quite excited by this because we thought, ooh, if you could just plug this into a computer and it gave you a host port, and it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. It's not class compliant or any of those things.
No, it's...
But nice try.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to get this is about 42, 43 quid, something like that, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So that's in addition to the Softstep, which the Softstep 2 is actually quite, it seems to have gone up quite a bit in price.
Yes.
It's 249 UK pounds. So yeah, it's an increased premium. Obviously, there's more going on under the hood, and it certainly is a useful thing. Though I'd want it to be pretty useful at that price.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier that the editor on the computer comes in the basic flavour and the advanced flavour, and the basic flavour just allows just a single sort of parameter change to, or you can just set them to just do one thing. But when you get into the advanced editor, you can set it to do so many things. So I can imagine in some cases, if you had really specific technical needs, you know, this probably ticks boxes that nothing else on the market does.
That's very, very true.
Should also mention that it actually kind of comes in two flavours in terms of, this is called the Softstep, but there's also the 12-step, which you can see is exactly the same size, same sort of build quality, but this is laid out in in an octave.
And it doesn't do the XY, does it?
No, but it does have pressure, yeah. But, you know, so there's a...
If you fancy playing bass pedals or...
Yeah, sort of a prog rock kind of thing. So we just mentioned that really. That
and that, again, this has got much more higher raised top and bottom rows, so it's easier to play with one's foot, though. You might want to wear something like ballet shoes to get the most of it.
I found operating it barefoot, you know, which some of the stages I've been on as well.
You don't really want that.
But barefoot, you know, you could really control it quite nicely with your toes.
Well, barefoot, I presumably it must, because they do say it's wine and spirit proof.
Yeah.
So it must be foot sweat proof as well, I'd imagine.
I don't know about mine, though.
Well, perhaps not.
But so we were using this though in conjunction with Loopy earlier at the beginning of the show, and the reason for that is it allows you to do such a lot of clever mapping. So what we'll do is we'll open up Loopy on the iPad and we'll have a little look how we did that. So I mentioned that Loopy has been around for a long time, but it has just been subtly developing, you know, and its MIDI implementation has just been growing in such interesting ways. So the way that you do that is you open up on Loopy, you come into the settings, and when you go into MIDI, it'll see any of the MIDI devices. So in this case, it's seeing the iTrack dock as the
input device, right.
You know, if we took it out of the iPod dock, it would actually see the Softstep natively. But if we go in here now, we can see our bindings. We can add a binding, and if I go to add binding then and go into the actions, we can see this is the list of possible actions. So you can see there's plenty of things there, more than, you know, than maybe that you've got space for on here. But what it enables us to do, which is quite nifty compared to other loopers, is, well, for instance here, I can move between, you can see there's like an orange circle.
Yeah.
So I can move up and down.
So loop slots, effectively.
Up the loop slots, yeah, with the control. And if I was to pick any of the particular loops, we've got this mapped at the moment. So as I press it up and down, I can actually control the volume.
Level of the loop.
Of the loop, yes. So knock them ones out. Or actually, I could use my mute control here. So,
That's quite a lot of power, isn't it? For something, I mean, Loopy has been. What was it on famously? It was on
the Jimmy
Fallon show. Yeah, where it was hit prime time with Billy Joel. Yeah, and they made a loop live.
Yeah. So I've got this set up, particularly, for me. But there's so many ways you could do it. I mean, if I went in here and went to the binding, I could assign like that to control loop 1, that to control loop 2, etc., etc. And it's limitless, really, just how much you can integrate.
He's obviously
MIDI.
thought a lot about it and kind of really has been kind of integrating it to more and more and more as people are using it.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
He's very responsive. Michael Tyson is directly to people on the Loopy forum, to ideas. So, which I love to see that in developers.
I mean, Loopy's been out for quite a while now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's something that we've kind of skirted around a little bit. It feels like it probably would retrospectively be worthy of a gold award because it is a classic.
Definitely,
app, isn't
it? Yeah. Can we do a classic gold award?
I think that would be fair.
Yeah,
classic gold.
Classic gold.
And how much is it? I mean, it's.
Oh, well, it's ridiculously cheap now. I mean, it's £2.49, so it's about $5 or $4. Yeah. So I mean,
that's for Loopy HD.
Loopy HD, and I think
what's the difference? Why would you want to save money?
I think that just refers back, to when they changed it to Retina display.
Okay.
I think, but I might be wrong about that. But I think, it's so wonderful. And, like with the loops, you can just drag them along, move them around. You can merge them by dragging one into another, what an interface, eh?
That's great.
Yeah.
Really great.
And, the multiplier. So, like, I've got this set up with a multiplier now, and this is one of the major things of a looper, right? I can change here as I'm...
All right,
can you see?
Yeah,
and I can go really small, so I can record just a 16th, loop, or I could go, just keep going up there. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that.
You can record
That's a monster loop. What's that, Nick? That's 2,147,836.
Right. So you can record limitless loops in as well.
Essentially. So, But, so that's a really cool way of mapping, isn't it? The fact that you could just jump to, change.
Yeah, a really key
your loop mod, the multiplier.
Loop. Yeah, nice touch.
Yeah. So,
So I can tell you're enthusiastic about it, and I think as a result, it is worthy of an award. So,
yeah, it's brilliant.
It's a Tasty Pixel, isn't it?
A Tasty Pixel, absolutely, yeah.
Search it out in the App Store.
Yeah, and wow, link it up, put it in your audio bus, send each of your loops out to sort of different effects, and on it goes, deep as you like.
Excellent. So I guess that kind of rounds up most of the things that we're talking about this week. It's been a little bit rambling and a little bit, but we've tried to cover a lot of things, and the idea is using this in a kind of setup that is actually live and working. Yeah. And what we're going to try and do now is to actually add to that by jamming on top of it. Dare we try?
I think that sounds like fun.
So what I'm going to use is a synth called MitoSynth, which is a kind of additive, wave-shaping, morphing synth from Wuji Juice. They did...
Grain Science.
Yeah. It's an interesting synth. I must admit, it's $9.99. It's quite expensive. And it doesn't really kind of float my boat entirely, but it's new, and I just wanted to demonstrate that the sounds it makes. So what we're using is Audio Bus to route that and your input into Loopy.
Yeah.
You can only record one loop at a time, so you don't get multi-channel recording, or at least we haven't figured it out. So so all we need to do is press go, isn't it?
Yeah, let's do it. So let's get our Loopy on the go, and we'll kick off what we had earlier.